What up? Welcome to Homegrown Hustle, where local brilliance takes the center stage. I'm your host, Matt Eichmann. Together, we're about to embark on an inspiring journey. Our community thrives on the wisdom of insightful leaders that are right here in our backyard. And we're bringing their expertise to your ears. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or simply seeking inspiration, this podcast is your guide. Join us every week in celebrating innovation, guidance, and the power to inspire greatness. Let's explore the stories that shape our local business landscape, and together, let's ignite the spark of excellence.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Homegrown Hustle Podcast. I'm here with Richard Farron, the CEO of Farron Claim Consulting. This man knows insurance better than anyone else in the world, based off the conversation we've been having so far. So before we dive into Richard's history and kind of how he's got into where he's at, let's first learn what is a public adjuster? What does that mean? Let's just start with that.
Sure. Well, first, thank you very much for allowing me to be on your show.
My
You have
pleasure.
a beautiful studio, great place.
Thank you so much.
I'm super excited about going through this podcast and explaining just not only what a public adjuster is, but all the challenges right now that anybody in this industry is going through, which creates a huge, just fabulous opportunity for people. So a public insurance adjuster is an insurance adjuster. We are licensed by the Commerce Department of Minnesota. We are our own entity. We are a private firm. Farrand Claim Consulting is a public adjusting firm. We only represent the insured. So a business owner or a homeowner, to make sure that they get treated fairly and to make sure that they get paid correctly based off of the policy that they have and based off of the damage. So our role is to literally stand in the gap and make the proof that the business owner or the homeowner would be required to prove to the insurance company as to why they should be paid a certain dollar amount. Good example of that would be like a life insurance policy. The insurance company is willing to pay as long as you can prove that the person who owned the policy has passed away, right? The evidence in a fire or a water loss or maybe an external storm-related loss gets much more complex than a death certificate, right? And so most homeowners and most business owners, because they've never had a large loss, they have no idea what the process is in order to actually get a claim settled. So by default, their mind goes back to, God, I hope this is true. They're a good neighbor. They're on my side. I'm in good hands. That's what their hope is. And they will literally put so much faith into that belief system that they will let the insurance company dictate what needs to happen on their loss.
Because that's what they want, though. That's what the insurance company wants.
That is what the insurance company wants. And it feels like they're being taken care of when they surrender their own will and their own ideas to whatever the insurance company is saying. In other words, if you're going to fight this big machine, it's work. If you just go along with this big machine, it seems like it's easier. It seems like things are getting taken care of. And at the beginning, there's no doubt that they are being taken care of well. Now, how long that lasts, an hour, a day, a month, who knows?
Yeah, great sales process.
But it is going to end because ultimately you are in a business transaction, even if you're residential. You are in a business transaction with one of the most shrewd industries in the world. And I'm not saying they're dishonest. I'm saying they're a shrewd business industry. They are looking out for their own interest. And this is a business transaction that you're in. Let's say, God forbid, you have a house fire, which includes not only the building, it includes all of the contents in your home, right? This is a bigger business transaction than when you purchased a house. And when you purchased a house, it was one human being like me talking to one human being like you. We probably could figure it out. We could probably figure out how to sell and buy this home. But we don't do it that way because it is a little bit more complex. We use a realtor, right? Yep. Now you have this huge loss, bigger than buying a house and all your contents. and the insurance company convinces you that they're just going to help you through this thing and settle the loss, and you're in good hands. When the truth of the matter is, businesses, same for Farron Claim Consulting, we're only in business for one reason.
This is a for-profit.
For profit. Yeah. Absolutely. It's no different with the insurance company. No matter what they advertise, they're looking out for their best interest. Now, people don't realize that most of the writing in the policy actually empowers them.
Help me understand what you mean there.
Sure. So in the policy, it says, for example, the insurance company being I and the homeowner being you and I will adjust this loss together. You have no idea what something costs in your house. How many times has a contractor come into a house to remodel a kitchen, given the price, and the homeowner pukes because of how expensive it is? Way can. So if all of a sudden you have a $400,000 home and you have a basement fire and they're offering you $140,000, that's more cash than anybody's ever offered you in your whole life. You think, wow, this is $140,000. It's probably enough. But they don't realize if they would have had a contractor come in to remodel their kitchen, it would have cost them $70,000. They don't realize if they would have remodeled their bathroom, it would have cost them $35,000, $40,000. They don't realize how much things cost. So when they first get that money in, they think, I got a pretty good chunk of money. When the truth is that loss based off of where all the smoke went, where all the water went, what code issues I have, maybe it should be $300,000, $400,000.
Yeah.
But you don't know. And it's not the insurance company's responsibility to tell you.
Yeah.
It says clearly in the policy, you and I will do this together. If you don't do your part, that's not their responsibility. They'll do their part, right?
Yeah.
The next thing that they do is they recommend a contractor come in. Contractors are one of the most vital things in an insurance claim once you have the money settled. Otherwise, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse. You get a contractor in, and every dollar that comes in through that insurance claim is definitely going to go to them, right? They're going to negotiate with the insurance company as far as they can. But you know what? If they can't get any further, their whole role is to fix stuff. They're licensed by the state to do construction, right? They're not licensed by the state to represent you in an insurance loss. There is a big separation between what a public adjuster does and what a contractor does. So if you don't get your money right, the contractor has an out. They can use cheaper material. They can use cheaper labor. But we all know that you can't have the lowest price and offer the best service,
the fastest,
and offer the greatest quality of product, right? And so if they're not getting the money right, they're shorting the other two. They have to in order to stay in business.
Yeah.
They have to.
It's true.
And so in the policy, it is constantly empowering the homeowner. I use that power as a public adjuster because I legally represent you in the claim. I can go in the policy, see where we have the power, the influence, the leverage, and use that to the insured's advantage. And when I say advantage, nobody that I know of in the public adjusting industry is trying to rip off the insurance company.
You're just trying to get what the formal agreement that was signed actually, like,
exactly.
You're validating what was signed, right?
Correct.
You're not making stuff up. It's not magic, hocus pocus.
A matter of fact, if you asked me to represent you and you had a house fire or one of your commercial buildings that you own had significant damage, and I came in there and was representing you, and at some point you told me that you had a $50,000 painting that was in the back room and that thing burned up, and I find out you didn't, you're gone. I'm not sticking. Our firm is not sticking around. And I would say most public adjusters are that way. We want the truth. We want what's really supposed to be paid on this loss. Not a penny more
Otherwise
or
it's
less.
Fraud, right?
Correct.
People don't always take that as serious as they should. Like this whole transaction's happening. You had damage to your home or your business, and now there's this massive transaction that's occurring.
Right.
It doesn't mean you can do a bunch of shady stuff there and like that all gets like blown over, because that's, I mean, besides like the moral and the ethics behind it, like it really contributes to the spiral that the insurance industry has seen with so many claims that are impacting what's going on now.
Right.
So you've been in this industry for how long, Richard?
My family owns the oldest public adjusting firm in Minnesota. So I've grown up with it my whole life.
So you grew up around this.
I grew up around it. I don't work for them anymore, but I did for years. We started our company, Farron Claim Consulting, in 2017, and we put a big focus on exterior losses and creating a process that would help other contractors that maybe didn't have as strong of a sales team or a supplement team to still be able to process their claims efficiently and effectively and profitably. And that was really important to me. I think it's important to even though I represent the insured, the homeowner or business owner, ultimately there's going to be a contractor that's involved, right? I want these contractors that I have built a relationship with, that I value, to be profitable so that they're there to serve my clients at a later time. And if I don't get the claims settled right and they continue to take claims and they aren't as profitable as they could be, then they start using cheaper material, cheaper labor, the service goes down.
Now they don't take care of your customer.
No, they don't take care of my customer. But my focus isn't strictly on making sure that the contractor is profitable, because that's really none of my business. Matter of fact, it's none of my business what the homeowner or business owner does with their money at all. And I frankly don't care what they do.
But it does impact the claim total, right?
For sure.
Their cost of doing business.
Yep, for sure.
Making sure they're profitable ensures that you're not helping support like halfway completed claim. Like you're getting like a high quality end of work result for the insured.
Now, the industry has, over the last 9 months, the industry has made some significant changes. There's been some laws that have changed in Minnesota that has made it much more difficult for contractors.
Do you want to run through some of those?
No,
okay.
I really don't.
We won't do that.
I don't. But the people who are contractors, they know.
They know
the laws have been set up in order to cause them to have to delay the way that they process the work. And I think it's strategic. I think what's happening in the industry is the insurance companies would prefer to create a preferred vendor system.
Okay.
Like they do in the medical field. If you get medical insurance, these are the places that you can go. This is our network, if you will, right? And they want to create that. The challenge is that these contractors have been profitable and they're strong businesses and they're good business owners. And so you need to, if you're an insurance company, come at a number of different angles in order to bring them down. And some of the angles that they're using is just changing the policy. There are policies that I have read that basically say, we're going to pay you the lesser of what we believe it would cost to fix it or what we actually spend to fix it, which means that you don't get a chance to fix it. You don't get a chance to hire a contractor. It's either take what we pay you or take what we pay our preferred vendor in order to get this job done. So they've taken the power away from the homeowner.
So it's not you and I, it's me and the contractor.
Right.
Fascinating.
Our contractor.
Yeah.
Our contractor. Yes. And there are policies that I've seen that have completely eliminated the ability to use a public adjuster. It's called an anti-public adjuster endorsement. So basically the only people that you can use is a lawyer. Today, even on a simple external claim here in Minnesota, more and more exterior contractors are finding that the insurance company won't even talk to them. They won't answer the phone. They won't answer emails. And they don't have to, because their contract is with the homeowner. Their contract is not with the contractor. And so
unless the homeowner is making the phone calls, there's no like negligence.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's gotten even more challenging. On the truth side, many of them are not answering emails or phone numbers for the homeowner. They're not answering phone calls when we put them in as public adjusters.
So is that because the industry of insurance is suffering and they don't have the headcount to do that? Or is it like strategic? We had a terrible year last year. We're not going to do this because that's going to make this year suck too.
That's a great question. I think it's both. Now, I don't know for sure. I'm not sitting in a board meeting. I'm not a fly on the wall, right? But I can observe what happens in the country. I'm part of an organization called NAPIA, National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. And they kind of put together our rules of ethics and how we do business as an industry. And because of that, I get an opportunity to talk to public adjusters in Florida, in Texas, in Washington, all over the country, right? And we all seem to be going through the same thing. And that's that the insurance industry has begun to put the blame of their own financial inadequacies onto the people that they made a bet with. So if I'm the insurance company and you're the business owner, we make a bet. It's called a policy. I'm betting that you're never going to have a loss. You're just going to pay me the money. You're betting that if I do have a loss, somebody's going to indemnify me and bring me back to whole, right? The insurance companies are now blaming the homeowners and the business owners for having too many claims. That's not the insured's fault. It's not their responsibility.
It's not my fault you took too many bets.
It's
pretty
not.
much. That's what you're saying,
Exactly.
Right? Wow.
So they've limited the bets. Some of them are moving out of different areas, and that is...
We've had a few companies move out of Minnesota altogether.
Absolutely we have. They are raising policy premiums, so that brings more cash in. But they're also not answering the phone for public adjusters and lawyers. They're not answering the emails when we send them in either. So I believe it's strategic. It
has to
every insurance company has enough set aside cash in order to create the most efficient process on a claim.
What do you mean?
They have the money to be able to create a process that is smooth, that works smoothly. We have the technology, we have the money, we have the know-how. We could create a pretty seamless process.
If we wanted to.
But there's no financial advantage to us to do that because you need insurance from somebody. You have a mortgage or
it's like a law,
loan.
right? Like you have to.
Well, if you have a lender that's involved that requires it, yes. So most people have to have some kind of insurance, but the insurance industry seems like they're in a financial bind and they're blaming it on either global warming or they're blaming it on you have too many claims, or they're blaming it on the public adjuster or contractor or whoever's trying to get the money from. They're too efficient, and it's not that.
Too efficient at making sure we follow through on the contractual agreement we engaged this individual with. Like, that's really what
10 years
it is,
ago,
though,
most
right?
contractors didn't realize, wow, I probably need decking underneath this roof.
So
today they understand.
How many public adjusters are there?
Not enough.
Because it's like,
and I'm in fear of saying every public adjuster that gets out there is competition. Most of us in this industry don't feel that way. I could make a phone call to 20 different public adjusters today to say, I have this claim. I'm not quite sure how to deal with X, Y, and Z. Can you help walk me through that? And we help each other. We're a very close-knit group. There aren't enough to cover the number of losses, but there are enough public adjusters in Minnesota to cover the amount of losses that people know would benefit by having a public adjuster. And what I mean by that is most people don't know what a public insurance adjuster does.
Yeah.
We're having this conversation. I bet 75% of the people who listen to this conversation, unless they came to it through me or through you, they don't even know that a public insurance adjuster exists, that there's anybody out there that's going to help walk me through this claim except for a contractor. And unfortunately, a contractor can't legally represent you. They can represent themselves. This is what it's going to cost us to fix this, but they can't legally represent the insured. So, I'd say in Minnesota, it's growing significantly over the last 3 years, but I don't know of more than 30 active public adjusters in Minnesota, public insurance adjusters.
That's crazy.
I know there's more licensed than that.
But essentially what it is like, other than a lawyer, like a public insurance adjuster is going into this like court of law, which is really just that engagement and representing the person that has the insurance. So the equivalent is going into like a courtroom without having a lawyer representing you.
Sure.
And this happens every single day,
It
right?
does.
Like I've had insurance claims where I haven't brought somebody in to help me make sure I'm getting what we signed up for originally. And there's like so much that goes on during that contractual agreement. But what I see and what I've experienced as I'm thinking about this is like, this is a prerequisite to me accomplishing this other thing that I need to do. So let's just do it as fast as possible without me like really taking time to assess it. Do you guys ever like review policies prior to it being like signed and put into place, or is that like not quite how it works?
I don't know if anybody does that. I don't even know if the
idea.
agent does.
Do that.
I'm thinking back on my own insurance, whether it's health, auto, homeowner, business owner. You get 30 days to cancel the policy that you bought. But I can't think of one policy that I've been able to see the full policy before I purchased it.
Fascinating.
I know. So let's use a homeowner's insurance company. Most of them have it online. So you go online, you sign in, you give what your square footage is, how old's your roof, do you have a pool, do you have all this different stuff, right? Do you consider your stuff low quality, medium quality, high quality, all of these different pieces? And do you want to add any jewelry or whatever? So you go through that whole thing and then you get a rate and then you say yes.
Yeah, because I need this to.
But you never get, here's the 80-page document that you are purchasing until after you've made that purchase. And it's the same way on the medical side. Whether you work for somebody and they're offering medical to you, you get some things. Here's what your deductible is. Here's how much coverage you have. Here's what our network is. Here's what our group is.
But
Here's
not
what's
like
in
the
network.
the inclusions and exclusions, like that's
endorsements, all of that. You don't get that.
probably by design.
I will tell you this.
Could you get it if you asked for it?
For our clients, once we're retained, the very first email that our firm sends out requests a certified copy of the policy. Why? Because we need to know what the rules of the game are. Our tagline is "Don't play the claim game." And it's not because we want you to put your head in the sand and not talk to the insurance company. It's because you don't know the rules of your own game that you're playing. You don't know what exclusions you have. You've never read the policy. You don't know what a proof of loss is. You don't probably even understand the policy once you do read through it, right? So we get the policy. We do use artificial intelligence to kind of siphon off the pieces that are important. Not that we don't read it, we do, but right away we need to get some of the important stuff out of there.
Right?
Yes, it's about speed. And we need to know what the important rules of this game are as we begin to engage with this insurance company and engage with your building. And without that policy, it's pretty tough to know.
How does somebody being insured like actually make informed decision if it's not fully informed? It's just a guess.
They don't.
It's how they feel, right? It's not a business decision. It's strictly emotional.
It's how they feel. And here's the funniest thing. Okay, so I get an opportunity to network a lot. And it might be personal networking at a party, or it might be business networking at a real networking group. And I stand up for the first time and explain what our firm does, that we are public insurance adjusters. We never represent the insurance company. We represent the homeowner or business owner to make sure they get treated fairly and paid correctly. You don't have to play the claim game alone. Let Farron Claim Consulting take care of all of your insurance. It's something like that, right? People come up to me afterwards and they're like, you should wear a cape. Like, I didn't know this even existed.
Superhero.
Yes, yes. But here's the thing. We find out about fire losses, for example, right? And we go out and cold visit this business owner or this homeowner. And I walk up and present the same exact thing. Their emotions have been manipulated. And they were manipulated over the last 20 years of watching TV and listening to the radio. You're in good hands. We're on your side. We're
such
good
a good
neighbors.
feeling with that relationship that they have, that what you're saying
with the advertising
the advertising, or like I've got great relationships with my insurance agents, right? And that's like, I know that's by design. That's how they do business.
Yeah, of course. And it's I'm not saying that it's a dishonest or bad design. But what I am saying is that when push comes to shove, you're in a business transaction with a pretty shrewd industry, and you don't know your policy. You don't know the rules of the game. You don't know what anything costs. You don't know who's on your side. You don't know who's looking out for you. You're not willing to build a team. They have lawyers, actuaries, underwriters, agents, adjusters.
Lots of money. Yeah.
And lots of money. And you're standing there going,
I'm
in good hands. That's why the advertising is so effective, because you don't know any other place to go. You don't know anything else to do.
That is the source of truth and the primary resource, where in reality it's a completely biased perspective on any of the information they're consuming because there's a sale behind it.
Right.
Wow. We could end the show right now, and like that, I think a lot of people would get value for it, but we're just getting started. So, okay. Let's back up a little bit here, Richard. So you touched on it, and then we got into all this cool stuff, but you said your family founded like the first public insurance adjustment firm in Minnesota. So you grew up around this, right? What have you seen that's changed like in the dynamic between like you and the customers that your family may be engaged with early on versus like what's going on now? Is there like some type of identifiable shift that's happened over that period of time?
Sure. Well, just to be clear, it wasn't the first public adjusting firm, but it is the oldest currently right now.
Appreciate you clarifying. There, we would have had a fact checker, and they would have commented on the post. So
would have been someone from my family, although they would have appreciated that I said that probably.
Well, there you go.
Well, the industry's changed a ton. I'm not quite sure if I understand what your question is, though. If you're asking me how we relate to humans or how we relate to the insurance company, or
more to the customer, like when a customer comes to you, the interaction, the customer experience that they have with the business of a public insurance adjustment company, like is it still more or less the same, that trying to deliver the same outcome, or has there been some shift in like the contract that's happened over that period of time that now you have to operate business differently?
Sure. Well, certainly the Commerce Department has required some changes of public adjusters. I'll give you a few examples. When I was younger, there was a solicitor's license for public adjusters. You didn't have to actually be a licensed public adjuster, and it's a pretty stringent licensing process and background checks and tests and continuing ed. But at the time, you could be a salesperson for an organization by just having a public adjuster solicitor license. And that law got changed back in the 90s. And
so now we can't drive revenue because we don't have salespeople without this license?
Correct.
It's easier. It's harder to have headcount to drive revenue because now you have to jump through these hoops to be able to do that.
Correct. So it's limited the amount of people that you can actually get on the ground. And I bet I know that there's a statistics out there that's right. Mine is not going to be right, but it's about for every $1 million that the insurance industry spends with lobbyists, the general public, including public insurance adjusters and contractors and homeowners, we spend about $100.
Oh God.
So imagine how the laws are getting changed, right? They are getting changed to bring down that contractor, to bring down the public adjuster, to limit the effectiveness that we have. So that changed a little bit, but it used to be really a mentality of consumer beware, right? Because we didn't have the information about cars, about paint, about anything, right? We just as a consumer, had to listen to the salesperson and hope that they were telling us the truth, right? Today, it's more seller beware. The buyer has all the power. The buyer can look up information on any company, on any idea, any theory. What is a public adjuster? You could go into Chat GPT, and it's going to give you all kinds of information about what wonderful things they do and what are some of the challenges and what are the benefits. They can get all that information. So that part has certainly changed. If one doesn't stay in front of other people, and if one isn't, this is really important, if a firm is not willing to take the time to help the consumer decipher between what's good information and bad information, they're really doing everybody a disservice, because there's so much information out there, but you don't know what's right and what is wrong. You can
Yeah.
You and I both
There's
know.
a lot of noise.
Right. There's a lot of noise. And part of our role is to help them figure out what is true and what isn't true. And the reason that that's important is, yes, we're in business to make money, but we make our money getting a percentage of what we help you get from so we have skin in the game, right? I want you to be as well informed as you possibly can be. I want you to understand what your policy says. I want to be able to explain to you why something is not being covered and something else is. I want you to be able to gather the information about who a good contractor is. Yeah. You know, a homeowner has this fire, 3 contractors show up. 2 of them came from the insurance company because they called them and said, there's a fire, go out there and take care of these people. And of course they feel like they're being well taken care of, but who are these people? Well, you can go online and you can find good stuff and bad stuff. How do I really dig into who's good and who isn't? Who's looking out for me? Who's looking out for themselves?
Good versus evil. It's crazy that you get into that. So
that part has changed a lot. And I think that more people are becoming aware that insurance is much more complex than they thought it was, because it is. Every day, well, not every day, at least twice a month, I get from my insurance company a little envelope about this size. And most people don't even open it.
Yeah. Like, why they send me another one?
Right. And it says it's not a bill, so I'm just going to the trash. But it's an endorsement. And I don't know about you, but most people think that if I'm endorsing a president, I'm kind of standing beside them, supporting them, right? That's not what an endorsement typically is in an insurance policy. An endorsement is typically we've changed something and we've taken away something in this policy that you need to be aware of. It's not I'm adding coverage.
I'm not getting a phone call for that one. Huh?
You're not getting a phone call. You're getting a letter, and that's it. And all of a sudden, and this is the truth. Not that we're going to talk a lot about exterior claims, but this is a pretty important piece. There are a lot of insurance companies that are sending these letters out, and their policy on anything exterior is moving from being a replacement cost value policy to an actual cash value policy. So
with depreciation,
and you can't recover that depreciation on an actual cash value policy. So let's say your roof is 20 years old and the life of the shingles is 25 years. You have 25-year shingles, which would be pretty common. They're 20 years old. If you have an actual cash value policy, you're getting almost nothing for that, because its life
You can't even buy the shingles.
And the change in the policy, all it takes is that letter, right?
Wow.
So there have been a ton. If anybody's listening to this podcast and they think back about how many they've received over the last 12 months, 99%, well, I don't really know the percentage, but I bet it's pretty close to 99% of those we're reducing the coverage that we originally agreed on this policy. And
that's crazy.
We're raising your premium as well. So
see, that one I would expect. I'd like, okay, send me a letter for that. But like, if we're going to change what we originally agreed upon, what am I talking about? I don't even have all the information to make the decision from Jump Street. But anyway, so
we talked about that earlier, right? So you had the policy and you didn't read that either, so you didn't even know that you were covered from now. It's
now
gone.
It means nothing to me.
Exactly.
So, and this is some of why it just seems like a racket to me overall. Exterior is one thing, but just the whole process is so.
We talked earlier about how at our firm, the first thing that we ask for is the policy. And any of my clients that are listening to this are going to laugh, because what I tell them to do before I'm retained, I say, no matter what, you need to get the policy. You need to get a certified copy of your policy. Well, what's that? Certified copy of your policy goes back to underwriting, and they date it back to the date of loss, and they make sure that all the endorsements and all the changes that have been made since your last renewal, they're all in this policy. Okay. But I tell my people, you're going to ask for it, and first you're going to get a declaration page. It's like 10 pages, and they're going to say, here you go. And I'm just going to let you know that you're going to send it to me. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to say that's not a certified copy of the policy. Then what you're going to get is you're going to go back to the agent. You're going to ask for the certified copy that has all the endorsements and everything. And what they're going to send you is your most recent renewal from the last 10, 12, 3 months, whenever your policy renewed, and any endorsement changes that have happened since then. And you're going to send it over to me, and I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to tell you it's not a certified copy of your policy. It's just the endorsement changes that have been made and your renewal. And you're going to have to go back to them again, and you're going to have to, again, request a certified copy of your policy. And they're like, why does this take so long? And I say, it gets worse. Once they get you the certified copy of the policy, they're going to email it to you. So it's going to take you about 21 days before you get a hard copy, which is of no use to anybody.
Yeah.
And they may even say the only way we can do it is to email it or to mail it to you. Is it strategic? You tell me.
I know when customers try to cancel our service that we don't make it really easy for them. Like, we want to make sure that we get the opportunity to make sure we're taking care of them and not just being, oh yeah, we're happy to let you go. See you later, Mr. Customer.
Yeah.
So at least it gives some bandwidth there to interact. But if there is no engagement happening other than this volley of information back and forth and they're sending you not the right thing, I feel like there's some sort of ill intent there. One would think, unless everyone's just completely uneducated and uninformed over there.
Why does it take 10 days, and why are you going to email it to me? I mean, why are you going to mail it to me, snail mail it to me? I know you're not typing this up. You don't have a secretary that's typing up these 80 pages to put it in. It's all electronic. It takes one click of a button. It goes to underwriting. It gets certified and signed, and you email it out. You could do this in a day.
But it's part of the it's really part of the game.
Delay, deny, depreciate. It is part of.
Maybe I'm jaded. It's Vegas, dude.
Maybe I'm jaded, but
I didn't realize until you said it earlier. It's legit. We're gonna bet that your house isn't gonna burn on fire, and you're gonna be worried that it would, and we're gonna hope we win, and you lose.
Right. So imagine being a consumer, having a large. You own a business, right? You've put your investment, your profits into your very first building, and you have it all set up the way that you want it, and business is running well. And then you decide, I'm going to start growing. So you put even more effort, even more finances, even more sweat and tears into this business, right? And all of a sudden, lightning hits, and 2/3 of your place burns up, and there's tons of water in your building, and luckily for you, you had just purchased another building in a town 10 minutes away. So you can move your operation there, but you still have to run your operation. You have a giant claim with the asset that you own, and you've never read the policy, and you have to run your business. You have to do an inventory. You have to read your policy. You have to fight with the insurance company. You have to take care of your family because they didn't disappear.
Life doesn't stop.
Life does not stop, right? So now you go from running a business that was on a decent growth trajectory to focusing your effort on trying to get that other building back up and running, or at least get the money to be able to do whatever it is that you want. Now imagine if you don't even have another building. Now you're just overwhelmed with so many things that need to get done, so many clients that aren't going to get touched. Just it can be extremely overwhelming. The insurance company counts on that. If you don't also have the policy, you don't have the rules of the game that you're playing, there is such a small chance of you coming out indemnified.
Yeah, they're not going to be like, oh, this guy's going through a tough time.
Yeah, no.
We're going to do him a solid.
And they're going to say that when they first walk up, but
yeah, but that's not how the math is going to work out, because it's a business
transaction.
It has to be.
In a business transaction, most people want to have something that's equitable for both, a win-win. But when you're in a shrewd industry, that's not necessarily the case. It isn't. Because when you have a win-win, that means sometimes, every once in a while, if you don't manage it well, you have a loss. Yeah. Insurance companies don't ever want to have a loss. Yeah. As a matter of fact, if, God forbid, something happened inside of this building, I guarantee you they're spending also money with somebody coming in here to investigate. Did this thing start the fire?
Yeah.
And if this thing started the fire, how can I subrogate my loss and have this company pay for this loss? They do not want to have a loss, even if they pay for it. And I don't blame them. If I ran an insurance company, I wouldn't want to have a loss either.
Yeah.
but I don't. I represent the insured.
And so you have to understand the game and how to play it. And if you don't have the policy, you can't do that.
Can't do it.
We've talked about like commercial insurance, right? So at Abracadabra, we do a lot of work with commercial businesses, large portfolios, and we're in quite a few networking groups. And we've found that overwhelmingly the vendors that are like the highest population per association is like damage restoration, like fire, water, like all those issues. Because I guess I don't know the because. Like, is there a because behind that? Like, is it just the revenue driver that is large insurance claims? Or is there something else that's like a easier way to do business in this vertical? Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around it, but I don't see a lot of other pest control companies in there.
Yeah, that's probably true. Well, one is when we do get, okay, if you back up just one step from what you just said, the restoration contractors, the vast majority of them, if you look at them, don't necessarily say fire, water. Some of them do, but the vast majority of them say roofing, windows, gutters, siding, right?
True.
Because there are more losses. There really are. When a hailstorm comes through, like it did last August 11th, 2023, it affected millions of homes. Well, somebody has to service them, or they don't get serviced, right? And insurance companies used to give you, a lot of them gave you 2 years to be able to service that client and get it completely done and recover the depreciation. And they're moving down. Many of them are 180 days. Oh. And if you have a winter that's in there, well, that's 180 days.
Seriously.
So, and many of them have moved down to 1 year. But regardless, even if they were all at 2 years, it takes time to settle a claim, to get it paid correctly, and then get the work done. And it's also a fairly profitable industry. Yeah. It's a very dangerous industry because you're up on a roof and it's windy and it's wet and there's things that are going on and the roof already isn't in good shape. Yeah. It's gone through some damage. So but it's profitable. It's profitable, and there's a huge demand when those storms come through. And it's fairly easy to put that first company together, at least just to do the roofing. You get a company that's also doing the siding, the windows, and it's a little bit more complex, but it is a profitable part of the industry for sure. So people over the next 2 years, though, we're going to see a huge decrease, I think, in the number of people that are out there, because these exterior claims, there's a focus on those from the insurance industry. I don't know that for sure. They haven't come out and said it, but I'm watching what happens in the industry, and they've taken away the profit in that industry in a significant way. Underpaying claims, paying only for one side of the roof, depreciating it, ACV contracts, actual cash value policies. Yeah. There are so many ways that they're just trying to decrease the profitability in this. And, if you sat back and said, well, every company should try to decrease their expenses, which is what happens for the insurance company, right? We don't want to have this expense, so we're just not going to pay these contractors. That certainly strengthens the insurance industry or the insurance company, but that's not who I represent. I represent the homeowner. I want them to be indemnified. I want them to come out as strong as before the storm happened. And we talked earlier, you can't give the highest quality service and the best product at the lowest price. Nobody can do that. I don't care what they say. So they're trying to keep their expenses low as an insurance company, and that makes sense, but it's going to disappear. There's not as much profit in it. They're not paying the same way, and the policies are changing, and the deductibles are going up. Yeah. You so walk into a place that's less. Yes, absolutely.
So when it comes to like these really large portfolios that we're working with, insurance is one of their biggest expenses overall, right? So the relationships that, like, is there different ways that policies are drawn up when it's like larger, like multi-location type of portfolios, or is it, this is kind of the offering that we have, we're going to put this together for any building that comes in? Like, how does that process work when they're going through and trying to find the right type of coverage for their properties?
I don't, the only answer I have is my own experience. Yeah. because I'm not a licensed agent.
Makes
so
sense.
I'm kind of stepping into an area that I'm certainly not proficient in. That being said, most of us as business owners have one of two mentalities. I'm going to protect my asset because it's required. I have a note on it. Or I'm going to protect my asset because I want to protect my assets. And one customer is shopping protection and the other one is shopping price. And if you shop price, there are certainly ways to narrow down your opportunity to collect if there's a risk, right? You're going into a bet, but you're saying, if I get any face cards, I lose. If I get any aces, I lose. If I get a jack of diamonds, I lose. You know what I mean? Where the other one is saying, oh, all I need to do is flip one card over between 2 and 10. And if it hits, then I'm going to be indemnified. So a lot of it has to do with the mentality of the business owner. What am I actually trying to accomplish?
Are we trying to hedge against issue that could happen, or are we trying to just drive up profits right now? So depending on where that real estate company is or management company is, like those decisions could be different. And then like if disaster happens,
I suppose, Matt, there's probably a third category though. Third category is just somebody comes to them and says, I can save you money. I can offer you the same policy that you had, and nobody knows what the policy says, right? So all of a sudden they see that it's a little less. The dollar numbers are the same. Yeah. There's $1 million on my building. I had $1 million before on my building, but the guts aren't the same, but they don't know it because you don't get to see the full policy until after you purchase it. And how many people do you know that have ever read their policy? I'm in this industry. I don't know a whole lot of people that have ever read their policy. So they come into it completely blind. I can't tell you how many clients we have had that have had a major loss and find out I don't have coverage for this.
That's like, that's a nightmare for people too, right? Because now you're in this situation that you thought you hedged against with the insurance that you have. And now you're this person who put you in good hands. Now you're not being taken care of. And so how do you climb out of that? But there's been so many decisions that have been made that led up to that. So now because lightning struck, you got to solve all the problems you already put on your plate pretty much.
So I had a client, and he's a lawyer, very smart gentleman out of Delano. And he had a policy, and it covered his outbuildings, and he had a couple horses in there, and his main home, and all of their contents, and all of the equipment that was in this outbuilding. And the outbuilding had a fire. He had changed his policy like 6 months before that, had met somebody who said, I can save you some money. And right. Well, it turns out that in this policy, his equipment was limited at $25,000. Now, before, his equipment was part of his home. So anything that was in there, he was going to get paid for, up to the policy limit, which at that point was close to $1 million. He had $25,000. The tractor alone was $25,000.
Yeah.
And then they looked at all the other stuff inside the building as farm equipment, and his farm equipment part of the policy was limited at $25,000 because of the way that they described what a farm is. But if you went to the previous policy that he had, it would have been covered. If you go to the new policy, because of the way it's worded, even though he showed the agent, this is my building, this is what I do, these are the animals that I have all of this stuff. He bought the policy. All of a sudden now he has a fire in this outbuilding, and the outbuilding was limited, I think, at $45,000, and his personal contents that were in there were paid for because they're part of the house. But everything that was used ever in his farm was considered farm equipment. So if you had a shovel in that outbuilding, the insurance company says that it's farm equipment. He says it's not. It's where I store my shovel, right? So every single item, you had this argument about what is farm equipment and what is not farm equipment. In the other policy, all of that stuff was covered.
But he saved $50 a month or whatever.
I don't know what he saved, but in the end, because he had the loss, he didn't end up saving anything. So then the question is, well, did somebody sell a wrong policy? And here's the way case law seems to be right now in Minnesota. You got the policy, Mr. Policyholder. You didn't read the policy. You didn't ask any questions about the policy. You've had this policy for 6 months.
Negligence.
And that's not we're not negligent. We sold you the policy. You own the policy. You didn't read the policy.
It's your fault then.
It's your fault. And of course, he could have went back to the previous policy and found out it was that way as well, because he didn't know. He probably never read that one either, right? But in this case, it would have been covered in that other policy. Still didn't get paid.
I would not like that salesman very much if I were him, the guy that came in.
Of course.
But I mean,
And this guy's a lawyer. He's not.
it's not like he's uneducated or uninformed. But
Yeah.
who's going to read 80 pages of an insurance policy? And what salesman's going to point out oh, by the way, all this stuff over here is not going to be covered. That's how we were able to save you money.
And the agent might not even know. And
they might
again,
not even
I'm
know.
talking in an area that I'm not licensed
For sure,
in, and
I
I
get
want to
it.
make sure that everybody understands that I'm not an agent.
not
I
insurance
don't understand
advice.
that. Yeah, this is not insurance
But
advice.
so
It's claim advice. Don't forget that.
Do you have customers that come to you before the oh shit scenario, before like the disasters happened and they were already spiraling down the like insurance hole?
I love those people. A lot of them are
Proactive.
a lot of them are
fantastic.
previous clients, and
Okay.
I don't want to have repeat customers. I mean, it's easier, but I don't want you to have I don't want anybody to have a loss. It just happens. I know that it's going to happen. Those who understand, I'm in a really precarious position right now. I don't know how this process works. I've been told that I'm in good hands. They show up with somebody who's going to service me, and I don't really know what to do. I think I'm in a precarious position because it seems like this is too smooth, too easy. The path is already made for me. Those people that give a call first on average, end up with much, much better results than somebody who's used a contractor who doesn't understand things, doesn't know how to write an estimate. It ends up in the weeds. There's been arguments. There's been name calling. There's been frustration, hair pulling, arguments between the husband and wives. And who's telling me the truth? The homeowner doesn't even know. Is it the contractor telling me the truth? Insurance company? They don't know, right? And when you get to those, they're much more challenging just to get them out of the weeds. Like golf, you shank one into the weeds, it's harder to get onto the fairway, right? Yeah. So you have to do that first. I run into a lot of people that are like, okay, I've collected $100,000 on this loss, and everybody's telling me that this is a $400,000 loss. I'd like to hire you, but I've already got $100,000. I don't want to pay you a percentage of what I've already gotten. I just want to pay you a percentage of what you're going to get moving forward. And I explained to them that the $100,000 that you got, it's $100,000, but it takes a lot more effort for me to get this thing out of the weeds than if we would have started at zero.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, if I make all the same assumptions that the insurance company did to get to $100,000, guess what I'm going to get to? $100,000, right? So I have to start, our firm has to start at $0. Now, granted, everything's negotiable, but we do have to start at $0 and build this thing from scratch as to what is in the policy, what is actually damaged, how much does everything cost. I can't make any of the assumptions that the insurance company has put in there. And it's harder. It's not easier.
Yeah.
It isn't.
It's a lot harder.
It's a lot harder.
So you have to literally go to war with these insurance companies, which is kind of cool. But
well, I like to win.
Oh yeah.
So there is a satisfaction
We like
in
that.
it when you finally open up the email and you're like, my people finally got paid right.
Well, and I can only imagine like some of the scenarios you've come into, and like literally the outcome of a situation could alter somebody's life big time. Or like, let alone just like the state of that property. When we're like, a lot of people, when they have like one of our close friends, my wife and I, like they had a fire at their home. It was over a year ago now. They're just now moving back in. Just now. They have 3 little kids. You know how difficult that is for a family of 5 with 3 kids running a small business to be displaced from their new home that they bought less than 12 months ago?
Right.
Like, you can't even, like, how do you quantify or bring a dollar amount to that? And then you add all this other insurance nonsense that now you have to navigate that process. Like, it's the hard things to like think about and talk about, but like ignorance is not bliss here. Like, ignorance is the opposite of that in this situation. And there's a lot of fear that I think is also there.
There's a lot of intangibles, the fear being one of them, right? The uncertainty of how to move forward. the spinning, you know how it gets when you get really busy and I have a million
Just
things
want it to be done.
spinning around in circles. I don't even know exactly what to do. You know, one of the first things that I tell my people, if it's a large residential loss, let's talk about the fire. I highly recommend that you and the kids get into counseling. This is going to be rough. There are going to be disagreements. You two are not always going to see eye to eye. You aren't always going to believe the same story. You aren't always going to want the same carpet when you replace this. There are so many things that are going to come up that if you don't, and I don't provide that, but if you don't have somebody helping you walk through how to communicate more effectively, how not to get anxious, how not to freak out, how not to just bury your head in the sand, odds are this is going to be a very, very difficult thing for you to go through. And if you're a business owner, it's even harder because you need to stay focused on your business. That's your primary responsibility.
Crazy.
And people don't realize all of the different pieces that go into this.
Yeah. Well, there's
and
so
how much
many
fear
pieces
can just stop you from doing something or cause you to do something just
that you shouldn't.
I need to do something.
Yep. Need to create action, need to make change, but now you're making silly decisions.
Right.
All right. So we're kind of getting to the end here. This has been fantastic. I've learned more than I ever imagined I would in a podcast interview. But so we always ask one question, but I'm going to ask you two questions here because I'm interested. So the one question I'm asking for myself. So when like going through this process of insurance, like when it comes to like pests and wildlife, like how's that typically like laid out in a policy? Like this is more just for me than for any of the listeners here, but like is there any coverage there? Like for wildlife damage, anything like that?
Very few policies. Like if you have a beehive behind a wall, I would have to really comb through the policy. And I use a couple policy professionals. And most of the time, that kind of stuff just animals don't seem to be covered well. However, animal protection stuff should be. Here's an example. Somebody has bat control up in and all of a sudden now they have a hailstorm and that's going to get destroyed. That should be covered.
We have to cover that. Yeah.
Right. But to use an animal or wildlife as the cause of loss, there's a bunch of bees that got behind the wall and they did a whole bunch of damage and I got all this stuff that I have to do. In most policies that I've looked at, it seems to not be covered. However, I need to also say this. It's not something that I'm typically looking for. Even when I get every policy, there are certain things that I'm looking for. Unless they're telling me I had carpenter ants in here and they ate out my whole
unless
side
that's
of the
why
house.
they're
If
calling
that's
you.
why they're calling me, then I'm going into that policy and trying to find it. I don't get too many of those calls. You might. It might be someplace that we can sit down and say, hey, is there some coverage in here? It's probably, unless it's a significant amount of damage, it's probably not something that I would want to have our firm come in as the public adjuster for $15,000, but it might give you some perspective as to what it is that I'm looking for. Is there a claim in here?
So
What have you found?
rodents are one of the biggest causes of house fires in the entire United States.
So that would be covered. That's weird.
How is that even possible?
A rat comes in and chews up the wire shorts, and the house burns down. The cause of loss is the short.
No, it's not.
The
Mouse,
mouse-
freaking mouse is in there.
Well, that's fine, but I want to get this thing covered.
Yeah,
and the
true.
truth is, the mouse just ate away the insulation. The mouse didn't cause the fire.
True. So
It started
It's like
because
the
it's certainly an instigator.
So everyone should sign up for pest control. That's what you're saying. Pretty
Everybody
much.
should sign up
That's
for
great.
pest control.
All right. I'm glad we got to that point. The second question. So you're on the Homegrown Hustle right now. So the word hustle, what does that word mean to you when it comes to your business?
You know what? You keep your head down and you just keep doing activity. And luckily for me, we've created enough processes that I know what the next activity is that I want to be doing. But, I see so many people that they have such great ideas, unbelievable opportunity, but they're so afraid of making a mistake. They're so afraid of getting their face in front of a camera. And what are the people that have known me forever going to think about me? They aren't willing to put in that hustle, right?
Yeah.
I don't know of anything that happens, at least in my life, without the hustle. If I might need a motivator sometimes, but if I'm not up and getting stuff done, it just doesn't seem like the money or the momentum stays.
Yeah.
Momentum's hard to get. And once you get it, if you've figured out a way to create some momentum, you don't want to lose it. Man, it's hard to create. So continuing the hustle, even when things are going well, that is probably the biggest focus that us as business people have to go through. How do I continue to push this thing, keep this momentum going when things are going really well already?
I think that when things are going well part is really important, because hustling, like when your back's against the wall and like it's survival, there's a different type of focus and passion that like can carry you through
you
stuff.
talked to Todd Rooker, right? Cover my assets, cover your assets. He will tell all of us constantly put yourself in a position where your back's against the wall. Yeah. If you don't keep doing that, odds are you're not going to keep hustling. You're not going to keep pushing. It's just human nature. There are some people that are able to do that. And at times I am. And at times you are as well too. But I'll tell you what, there's something about creating your own pressure. There's something about creating your own deadlines, timelines, goals that kicks the hustle into gear for sure.
And it's like...
And we're not taught that in school.
No, you're not. And you're actually like taught like you shouldn't hustle. Like, why are you working so hard? You're doing so well. Like, it's because people don't want to see you like continue to progress further than them. Yeah. I love that. Head down, get to work, keep going even when you've made it.
How about you?
You know, I've never had anybody ask me. Hustle means to me like, I don't care, get to work, there's no excuses. Like, I don't care. Like, whether it's we're doing really well, I didn't close that sale, like, but you could have. Like, why? Like, what didn't we do? Like, there's always like a 1% or a percent of a percent that could have been better. And like, that's what the hustle is, like the search for like that.
I love that.
So
that's what I was referring to earlier about efficiencies, right? How do we just get a little bit better?
Every single day. One of the funniest...
Or a lot of it better. That's even better.
Yeah,
but
that's even
some
better.
days all you're doing is looking and saying, if I would have done this different, it may have turned out different. It may not have, but overall, out of 100 of them, I closed 2 more of them.
Well, and it becomes numbers, right? So like, but putting that little pile over in the corner over time, like if you do that every single day, twice a day, 3 times a day, like eventually you've got a big pile of something over there.
Love it.
But if you just go there a couple times, like you've got a little pile. And
that's the same way in marketing. I imagine we were talking about marketing earlier. It's not something that you're going to go in and I'm going to do this for a month and see how this thing works.
Nope.
Because in a month, you don't have much momentum and you don't have too many people responding to it. And
correct.
You keep it up for 5 years, it's a totally different game. The lady that does our marketing, Khadija is her name. I call her Dija, and she's just a bright young lady. And she told me she had started some knitting thing when she was in her teens, and so did one of her friends. And they started doing the marketing because they were in marketing classes in school. This girl has kept up on the marketing for her knitting. Dija did not. Her friend is now on newscasts, on newsletters, all different kinds of platforms talking about stuff. And she's like, that could have been me had I just had hustled and stayed consistent and not given up.
Consistency, yeah. There's so much behind that. Well, thanks again for coming on, Richard. Really appreciate your time. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you if like, heaven forbid, they're going through some type of insurance claim?
It happens. If you want to get a hold of us, you can visit our website, Farrand, F as in Frank, ARRAND, farrand.pro. You can get a hold of me on my phone, 763-221-2419, or LinkedIn, Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram at Farrand Claim Consulting.
Good deal. Yep. Well, is there anything else you want to add or any advice you got for anybody that's listening right now?
No, I just appreciate you allowing me to come out here and ask great questions and let me talk. And
sometimes they're off the cuff, but you have a lot of information that most human beings don't have. So I think that's like really powerful. So I'm just trying to figure out as many ways to like pull that out.
Share this with your friends.
Yeah, please do. I'd like to have you on again though, because I think we can. There's a few things we could explore a little bit more.
I'd love it.
And dive down that, because I think this is something that really can like impact people on a deep level if something like this ever does come up. So
should we give them a preview of what we would like to discuss this next time?
Or we ask them, or we ask them
I love that.
What we should discuss.
I love that.
And then we actually give them what they want.
Yeah.
Instead of what you and I want.
So if you've listened to this podcast and you've been like, I'm not really sure how this works, that works. What is appraisal? What is actual cash value? Whatever. Make a comment and let us know. And we can address those issues. I love that idea. That's fabulous.
And then we'll loop back around to that. We'll get you back on and we'll address all that in a couple weeks or months when we get you scheduled. Thank you so much for coming on, Richard. Richard Farrand, CEO of Farron Claim Consulting. Been around for a while. One of the smartest individuals I've met in the insurance world right now, and he works closely with one of our good friends, Todd Rooker, when it comes to financial protection, right? So thanks, Todd, for the connection. Really appreciate you. Hope you're listening to this. Everybody else, thanks for listening to the Homegrown Hustle podcast. Feel free to check us out on all of our social media, from YouTube to Facebook, Instagram, all the above. Shoot us an email if there's anything you want to hear us talk about at homegrownhustle.com. And thanks again for listening to the Homegrown Hustle podcast. Have a great rest of your day, Richard. Appreciate you.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks again for joining us on Homegrown Hustle. Our local business community thrives because of the brilliant leaders right here in our backyard. And it's been an absolute privilege to provide them with a platform to share their invaluable expertise. Stay tuned for more insight, wisdom, and inspiration from our local business champions. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Together, we'll continue to nurture and expand our homegrown success stories. Matt Eichmann signing off until our next insightful episode.